The MCU battle. Who would win, Kurse or Thanos without the gauntlet? In the vast, cold darkness of the cosmos, where dying stars and shattered planets drifted like ancient shipwrecks, two colossal figures slowly drew closer. On one side stood Kurse, the last warrior of the dark elf race, transformed by an ancient curse. His body was now a blazing forge of black stone, each step cracking the ground like shattered glass. On the other was Thanos, the mad titan, who had single-handedly broken the galaxy. His deep purple eyes no longer held the Infinity Gauntlet, leaving only a bare body forged from blood, fire, and an unyielding will. They met on a desolate asteroid, the remnants of a long-dead civilization. The sky was stained blood-red by meteor dust, and the air hung heavy with the smell of scorched metal. No greetings. None were needed. Both felt the other's power, like two storms colliding before the lightning struck. Kurse roared first. The sound didn't come from his throat but from his granite chest, shaking the very space around them. He charged, each step sending shockwaves that toppled ancient stone pillars. His colossal hand swung, the air shrieking as if torn apart. Thanos didn't dodge. He merely tilted his head slightly, a rare glint of amusement in his eyes. Kurse's punch slammed into the Titan's left shoulder like a collapsing mountain. No bones broke. Only a dull thud echoed across the asteroid. Thanos was pushed back 3 steps, his feet gouging deep into the rocky ground, leaving 2 long scars, like wounds on the planet itself. He smiled. The smile of someone who had just found a worthy toy. Kurse didn't stop. He pressed on relentlessly, a barrage of punches like a meteor shower. Each blow carried the power that had once shattered Mjolnir, that had made Thor in his Dark World era bleed and fall. But Thanos was different. He blocked. He parried. He countered. His right arm caught Kurse's wrist, twisting it hard. Bones audibly cracked. For the first time, Kurse felt pain. On the distant Olympian peaks of Asgard, Thor sat by a fireplace, a trembling glass of mead in his hand. He remembered that day, the day he was young, arrogant, and fearless. The day Kurse walked past him as if he were a child with a wooden sword. He had fought with all his might, summoned lightning, and swung Mjolnir until his arm was numb, yet he still fell. He still had to witness Loki die in his arms. He still had to watch Jane nearly lose her life. Now, looking back, Thor realized a bitter truth. He was strong back then, but never truly awakened. Power slept dormant in his veins, never awakened by true pain. He was like a sleeping volcano, beautiful but harmless. Only when he lost everything, his mother, his father, his homeland, half the universe, did he truly erupt. Even as a fat Lebowski, even as a drunkard for 5 years, he could still wield Stormbreaker to sever Thanos' arm, still make the Titan retreat, if only for a moment. So, if you put Thor from the Dark World era, Thor, who had never known true loss, against Thanos without the gauntlet in Endgame, what would happen? Thor would fight bravely. He would summon lightning, throw Mjolnir, and roar the battle cries of Asgard. But he would be crushed. Not because he was weaker in raw power, but because he had never learned to truly wield himself. He was like a divine sword still in its sheath, beautiful but not sharp. Thanos would break him like a dry branch. But Kurse was different. Back on the dead asteroid, Kurse had just landed a kick that sent Thanos flying through 3 rocky mountains. The Titan landed, his back slamming hard into the ground, creating a crater 100 meters deep. Dust billowed. Silence stretched for a few seconds. Then Thanos stood. Not a scratch. Only his eyes burned brighter. He remembered the feeling of snapping his fingers twice. The first time, when half the universe vanished, the energy from the 6 stones surged through his body like billions of suns exploding in his veins. His skin charred black, his flesh melted, his bones creaked as if about to shatter. But he stood firm. The second time, when he reversed everything, he almost died. His left arm was burnt to a crisp, half his body disfigured. But he lived, and he smiled. Compared to those 2 times, Kurse's punch was just a minor inconvenience. Kurse charged again. This time, he drew a black sword, as long as a starship, its blade blazing with dark energy. The sword that had once pierced Thor's chest, that had made the god of thunder kneel. Now it cleaved down towards Thanos' head with terrifying speed. The Titan raised a bare hand to block. The clash of metal rang out like the universe's final thunderclap. The sword snapped in half. Fragments flew everywhere, blazing like meteors. For the first time, Kurse recoiled. His fiery red eyes narrowed. Thanos stepped forward. Each stride felt like a stomp on his opponent's heart. He wasn't rushing. He was savoring the moment. Kurse roared, activating all his remaining power. His body swelled larger, black lava oozing from the cracks in his skin. He unleashed a final punch, the very punch that had only slowed Malekith's black hole grenades for a few seconds. The blow carried all the despair and fury of a dead race. Thanos caught it with one hand. The air exploded. The asteroid's surface split in two, half the planet shattered and drifted into space. Kurse felt his arm slowly being crushed. His stone bones groaned and cracked. He tried to pull his arm back, but couldn't. Thanos looked him directly in the eyes. "You are strong," Thanos' voice rumbled like a chasm, "but I have survived things that the entire universe would fear." Then he squeezed tighter. Kurse's arm shattered into 1,000 shards of black stone. He screamed, for the first time, a scream of pure agony. Thanos didn't stop. He grabbed Kurse by the neck, lifting his massive body like a puppet. Kurse thrashed, his legs kicking Thanos' chest repeatedly, each kick powerful enough to destroy a city. But the Titan remained unharmed. He remembered the space stone. The stone could create tiny wormholes, but to do so, it required energy equivalent to 10 billion suns emitting for a year. And he had held all 6 stones in his hand, letting them burn him from the inside. His body was no longer flesh, but a reactor tested by the energy of the entire universe. Thanos squeezed harder. Kurse's head exploded like a black nuclear bomb. The headless body crashed to the ground, shaking the remaining asteroid. Silence fell. Thanos stood there, amidst the ruins of a dead planet and the corpse of a defeated warrior. He didn't smile. He just quietly looked up at the star-filled sky, where half the universe had once vanished with a mere snap of his fingers. Somewhere, far away, Thor set his drink down. He didn't know why he shivered. He only knew that in some corner of the multiverse, a battle had just ended, and the survivor was not the one he had lost 2 years ago. Kurse was strong, very strong. Strong enough to defeat an unawakened Thor, strong enough to survive a black hole, strong enough to make all of Asgard tremble. But Thanos wasn't just strong. He was someone who had survived the very power of the gods. And in a fight without the gauntlet, between Kurse and Thanos, only one would still be standing when the dust settled. The Mad Titan turned and walked away, leaving behind an asteroid split in two and the headless corpse of a warrior. His shadow stretched long under the cold starlight, solitary but unbeaten, no fanfare, no ceremony. Only the sound of cold wind blowing through the fragments of a dead planet and the footsteps of the strongest being left in the universe. Black stone dust still lingered in space like an endless funeral shroud. Thanos stood silent for a long moment, letting the biting cold of the void seep into the cracks on his skin. He wasn't panting. His heart wasn't even beating faster than normal. Only a familiar emptiness arose, the feeling that had followed him since he was a child on dying Titan. He bent down to pick up a fragment from Kurse's body, a piece of black stone still scorching hot, its internal lava veins extinguished. The stone was so heavy that an ordinary mortal army couldn't lift it. Thanos rotated it in his palm like a pebble. He smiled, not a smile of victory, but the smile of someone who had once again proven that everything eventually turns to dust. Billions of light years away, in a dark room in New Asgard on Earth, Thor's eyes snapped open. He had just dreamt a wordless dream. In it, he saw himself, a younger, more arrogant version, kneeling at the feet of a colossal shadow. But the shadow had no face. Only a massive purple hand slowly crushed Kurse's head like a shattered egg. Thor sat up, cold sweat trickling down his neck. He didn't understand why, but he knew, deep in his bones, that something had just been permanently decided in this multiverse. An invisible line had been drawn. Among the strongest beings of the stars, there was still a mountain no one could overcome. He stepped out of the wooden hut, the night wind blowing strongly in from the sea. The moon hung, suspended in the Norwegian sky, cold and distant. Thor looked up, and for the first time in years, he felt small, truly small. Not because he had once lost a Kurse, but because he realized that even the one who had defeated him years ago was just a grain of sand before something larger, more cruel, and more patient. Back on the shattered asteroid, Thanos dropped the black stone fragment. It fell slowly in the weak gravitational field, then hit the ground with a dry thud. He turned, walking towards the ring-shaped ship that waited in the darkness. The ship had no name. He had never named anything, though Ebony Maw once called it Sanctuary 2. Now, it was just a silent metal coffin. As he stepped onto the gangplank, memories flooded back, unbidden. He remembered the day he first snapped his fingers. The energy wasn't like fire. It was like billions of microscopic blades cutting into every cell simultaneously. He screamed, but no one heard. The surrounding space warped. Time slowed to a thick, viscous glue. He felt every muscle fiber, every tendon torn apart and then reattached in a way no living creature was designed to endure. And he still stood there, after it all ended, with only 5 stones remaining in the charred gauntlet. The second time was even more horrifying. He had known it would kill him. He had accepted it. But when the full energy of the 6 stones surged through his body again, he realized that even death dared not approach him. It merely stood at the door, watched him burn, watched him dissolve, then quietly retreated as he still breathed. Kurse was strong. Kurse could shatter the Mjolnir of an unawakened god. Kurse could survive inside an artificial black hole for a few seconds, long enough to kill its creator. But Kurse had never been simultaneously incinerated from within by 6 Infinity Stones. Kurse had never embraced the power that could erase half the universe with a single snap. Thanos sat in the command chair. The screen before him displayed countless twinkling stars. He didn't start the engines immediately. He just watched the specks of light whose fates he had once decided. Now they still burned, still carefree, as if no one had ever nearly extinguished them. He wondered, if he hadn't had the gauntlet that day, if he had only these hands, what could he have done? He still would have done it, just a little slower, just a little more painfully, because Thanos wasn't strong because of the stones. The stones only made him faster. This body, this will, had been forged since the day Titan starved, since the day he watched his entire home planet turn to dust due to the foolishness of his own people. He had decided then, balance, at any cost, and he had paid for it with his very soul long before the 6 stones appeared. The ship began to move. The ion engines hissed softly, pushing the asteroid's debris away. Thanos didn't look back. He didn't need to see Kurse's corpse again. He had seen enough dead bodies in his life. Somewhere in the multiverse, perhaps a version of Thor was wielding Stormbreaker, roaring his name with burning hatred. Perhaps a version of Captain America was raising his shield, ready to die once more to stop him. Perhaps a version of Tony Stark was still alive, building new armor to snap his fingers in his stead once again. But here, in this reality, there was no one left. Only him and the endless darkness. The ship accelerated, hurtling into the deep void. Behind it, the asteroid finally disintegrated completely, turning into a cloud of glittering dust floating among the stars. No trace of Kurse remained, no trace of the battle. Only a colossal purple figure slowly vanished into the cosmic night. And somewhere, far away, Thor closed his eyes. He said nothing. He just quietly picked up Stormbreaker, caressing the axe blade as if it were an unfulfilled promise. Someday, he thought. Someday. But deep down, he knew. That day would never come, because there are some mountains that are never overcome, and Thanos, without the gauntlet, was still that mountain, forever.